What's up there, Pitchsiders? I am back. I'm your host, the HOD3SP. Yo, you can bet we are back and running on this podcast. Episode 65 it is then, on the show after a long absence. 8-9 days of absence out of the podcast. It's been a while, really. But anyway, it is back to the normal business and the usual drill. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe on YouTube, of course, and enable notifications to receive the updates of this podcast and other content on the channel. You can follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, PitchsidePod on Instagram. The links are in the description. And you can listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And let's get into it. Kicking off the news roundup portion here of this episode, which is going to be a little bit long, just because, there was not a lot of action to recap yesterday, so we'll be exactly, focusing more on these news as they go. Let's start from Italy, of course. Juventus drawing 0-0 against Inter, of course, reaching the Coppa Italia final in a game that, as I mentioned in its review, was pretty slow and plodding, with Juventus liking, of course. It was by the design of Juventus to avoid the pressure from Inter, to avoid getting chipping goals in. Inter had a decent game in trying to create something, but they didn't quite create something. They didn't force saves out of Buffon. They didn't, make a real trouble in the back for De Ligt and Romarella, and that is saying something, considering that they have Lukaku up front, Inter, and they have Martinez, and they have Hakimi, and those likes of players. But I think Pirlo got the game management just about right to defeat Inter, overall defeat them, not on the night really. Juventus also were able to create chances. They were even more dangerous than Inter, despite the fact that Inter had more possession into the game. It was pretty clear that Juventus, and as the game went on in the 0-0 scoreline, it was clear that Juventus were not exactly wanting to go forward and try to risk themselves at the back. They just were happy to let Inter possess, that Inter try and shoot. It was basically shooting and blocking in the latter parts of the game. So Juventus reached the final of the Coppa Italia, and they will face the winners from the Atalanta-Napoli game today. Of course, the first leg of that match ended with a goalless draw, so it was, unlike that game to see a goalless draw, so expecting a more entertaining second leg. And of course, the winner is going to be meeting Juventus in the final. That game, I think, prompted quite the angry reactions, and that's why I'm trying to make the transition here for the news. Antonio Conte had a heated post-match bust-up with Andrea Agnelli from Juventus after the match. Of course, Conte directed a middle finger gesture at Agnelli at half-time, and then following at full-time whistle, the ecstatic Juventus chief raised from his seat to Inter bench and was heard shouting, "F off, shut up, you a-hole." I'm really saying literally what the Italian press has been saying. He wasn't keen to elaborate on the exchange, but fumed the blame lay with his former employees, and he says Juventus should tell the truth. He said, "I think the fourth official heard and saw it happen throughout the match. They should be more polite, in my opinion. They need more sportsmanship and respect for those who work." I think this is BS. I think this is trying to deflect from the fact that they couldn't score, couldn't create chances, because it wasn't even about refereeing. It wasn't even the referee did us wrong, for example, the normal deflection stuff. It was, they should be polite and something. I don't know about the benches and what have you, but this is going to be, something to follow on, really, because they still have another game in the league at Turin, and that would be really interesting when he eventually returns there. Moving from Italy to England now, and in England, where it was the FA Cup 5th round, as Burnley were ousted by Bournemouth 2-0 at the Turf Moor. But the most important thing is that McTominay gave Man United the winner against West Ham in the extra time, pretty early in extra time. 1-0 it was for Man United, of course. A game that was pretty marginally dominated really by United. West Ham didn't have a lot in terms of playing possession. Man United started without either Cavani, without Bruno Fernandes. Paul Pogba, of course, wasn't on the list. Matic starting alongside Alex Telles, Lindelof, Maguire. Dean Henderson was given a start ahead of De Gea as well, with Grant being the replacement goalkeeper. The game wasn't exactly great, but United, had enough in them to win, and Scott McTominay, of course, scored the only goal in the game, the winner, to get United to the next round of the competition. The competition, of course, continues today with some big encounters in the FA Cup. It will be Everton facing Tottenham in that competition. It will be Wolves facing Southampton, Man City facing Swansea, of course. Some big encounters in the FA Cup, fifth round taking place today. Back to and going on to Spain, actually, Real Madrid in La Liga, of course, defeated Getafe 2-0 in a rescheduled game. Benzema and Mendy scored as Real Madrid breezed past Getafe 2-0. The result might sound a little bit more flattering than normal, really. But the game was, pretty hard. Let's be fair, against the Getafe side that are not exactly the worst side in the world. They're really good. But Real Madrid, and of course, trying a new formation, trying 3 in the back, which was at once weird and, innovative, because Zidane never did that in his Real Madrid career. He played with 3 in the back, which was, always interesting, with both Mendy and Marcelo featuring, and of course Mendy scoring. Like, this is like 2021. Saying that 2021 is not weird is exactly, pretty weird in itself, because Marcelo scored in a game that he didn't lost, and it was Mendy. Marcelo made an assist, and it was Mendy who's scoring. Like, all the stars aligned for this sort of thing to happen. Now for Real Madrid, it will be not moving up exactly, but closing down the gap, even figuratively, even sort of symbolically closing down the gap on Atletico Madrid, because we all know really that it's just a matter of time before Atletico Madrid just escape from the pack, and unless something miraculous happen, which is an Atletico Madrid collapse to be more precise, the Clásico is going to be for second place, and it will be Atletico Madrid really running away with the La Liga title. And even that second place for one of them isn't exactly short, because Barcelona and because Sevilla are not exactly far from Barcelona or Real Madrid in that regard. In other news, of course, and we're starting with some transfer talk. Man United making RB Leipzig Ibrahima Konate their number one target this summer in defence. They identified him as a prime centre-back signing that they want to make. Of course, they viewed Konate as partner, Dayot Upamecano. Everybody, sort of views Dayot Upamecano, and have been really vocal here about the fact that Ibrahima Konate should be taken a look at as well. He's the best fit player. Now turned attention to the 21-year-old Man United, who performed equally as well, of course. Again, with the £38 million release clause due to be activated this summer for Upamecano. He's been heavily linked with United, but Bayern Munich are thought to be leading the chase, while Liverpool and Chelsea also have hopes of signing him. The young French defender has been beset with injuries this term, but has impressed in his 12 appearances he's managed so far. So Konate broken into Leipzig's first team system as a teenager back in 2018-19 is just the latest example of the club's exceptional recruitment, having poached him from Sochaux after he had played just 12 senior game. Will he go there? Nobody knows really. He's a really, really good defender, and if he goes to United, it's going to be, really, really brilliant signing for them. From there, we finish with some couple of statements. First from Pep Guardiola, of course, who denied actually the fact that they are champions-elect after a 10-match winning streak in the Premier League. They went 5 points clear of rivals Man United after defeating Liverpool and thrashing them 4-1 at Anfield on Sunday. He warned the players to not be complacent, and he pointed towards Liverpool's recent collapse in form and said, this collapse could happen to us, so we need to be careful, we need to play every game that we need to be, and we need to keep winning. That's the basic gist of it, he said. I don't understand it, but because we're already champions, he said that sarcastically, of course, and said, Liverpool remains one of the best teams I've seen in my life. Also, he said you don't know why 3 defeats in a row could happen. I mean, it could happen to us, the City, that is. That is before, of course, heading to Swansea City on Wednesday, hoping to avoid an FA Cup upset against a side that was really, really close to getting them out of that competition 2 years ago. Second in the Championship, they never lost since December the 2nd. It's Guardiola also commented on that, saying that the Championship is not an easy league. It's sometimes stronger than other big European leagues. We suffered a lot there. 2 down and our 3rd goal was offside. It was a difficult day. He said we understand how difficult it will be, but knew it immediately when we saw the draw. And if we don't understand this, we will be out. That is what Guardiola say. And finishing off to PSG, of course, who make no secret of luring Messi. Of course, this is a saga that has been going on for a while now. The list of Paris Saint-Germain players have tried and failed to sign over the years is very long, and Messi is just going to be the latest addition, of course. France Football, wrote an article certainly yesterday about the situation, and it looks like the Messi option is pretty strong for PSG, and maybe just maybe they will sign him eventually to join the squad. Finally, Man United versus Real Sociedad in the Europa League is officially going to be taking place in the Juventus Stadium, in the Allianz Stadium in Italy, with the two sides meeting in the home of Serie A reigning champions. With this, after a statement was released by the UEFA on Monday, as when and where the fixture will take place. The statement reads, UEFA can confirm that the UEFA Europa League round of 32 between Real Sociedad and Man United will now take place at the Juventus Stadium of Turin. Of course, that is going to be, as far as Real Sociedad is concerned, after the travel ban as well, travel restrictions in Spain amid the coronavirus pandemic. The same thing happened to Liverpool versus Leipzig. It's going to be played in the Budapest Arena in Hungary for the first leg of the Champions League campaign. It can happen to other games really, but mostly it will happen to the games where the English teams are going to be travelling away, considering that the UK is one of the countries that are ravaged by the new strains of COVID-19. And now to the debate portion of this episode. I mean, one of the biggest events I think I missed in the last 10 days or so, or I didn't talk about, I didn't have a chance to make a video about, is the Liverpool Man United thrashing Man City, thrashing 4-1. They lost at Anfield on Sunday, and Klopp had a new excuse in hand for this one, and this one it's time for Alisson. Klopp said that he had cold feet, that he couldn't play really well, like literally cold feet, not exactly the figurative term for he doesn't care, but it was cold feet as in cold feet literally. This kind of, prompted, I think, a sort of debate about how Klopp is getting into his own head, how Klopp is becoming the new Mourinho, basically, in terms of deflecting everything about the game to refereeing, to broadcasting schedule, and it started, I think, all the way back to the Brighton game away from home, where they drew 1-1, and I think that game was the one where he complained a lot about the schedule of the broadcasting, why the Premier League decides to put the champions who play in the Champions League next, we just played in Champions League right there, and then on Wednesday, and I think it was against Midland in Denmark. It was a really serious trip away from home. Why they were played like that, and it was the start of a long list of complaints that Klopp has launched. Of course, there was referees, Man City, having a break of some sort because of COVID. The 3 subs 1 point comment on Chris Wilder, the referees, the VAR, everything. The lack of transfers, obviously. I think the only complaint that Jurgen Klopp could be rightful about is the injuries, because they had a lot of those in this season, and they were ravaged by injuries and by the lack of fitness of some players. But certainly the other stuff is common. Like the other stuff all the clubs faced, like all the clubs had problems with the schedule, all clubs had problems with the transfers, problems with the broadcasting schedule, the trips, the thick and fast nature of the season, the hectic schedule. Everybody has a problem with that. It's not just Klopp, but obviously coupled with the late results of Liverpool, losing to Burnley, losing to Brighton, losing to City now 4-1, not winning at Anfield in 2021. Couple all of that with the bad form and the complaints, and you have a very combustible situation at Liverpool now. Klopp, I think, is seriously living free rent in his own head, because these things can only happen for a coach that is not mentally, holding himself together. Like Klopp at the moment probably is losing it, and I think quite rightfully so, maybe, in terms of result and performance, because the performance have been bad for Liverpool. But you cannot really deflect the blame on something else and try to say, oh, we were put in some hard broadcasting schedule, or the press is against us, or VAR is against us, or, I don't know, whatever excuse Klopp is going to pull. Liverpool need to focus on keeping themselves in the top 4 at the moment, because let's be realistic, the title race is over for them. They won't be champions this season. And this deep into the campaign, it looks like the 10-point gap that could potentially go to 13 is unsavable. This is basically the reverse from last season, where Liverpool ran away with the title and City were just watching from behind, and it looks like it will be a reverse of that, as City are going to be escaping with the title apparently, and Liverpool will end up just watching and probably will give them the guard of honour in the next time they meet. Certainly, I would see Klopp. Klopp needs to end this complaining nature of his. He needs to end this complaining spell, because seriously, he needs to think a little bit more rationale. He needs to think in a little bit more reasonable way about what he's going to be doing for the rest of the season. He have Champions League he still plays for. He's out of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, yes, so probably, this could potentially go from an all-trophy laden spell at Liverpool to a trophyless season in one fell swoop. And it all started with the Virgil van Dijk injury, because that launched a sequence of events of sorts where Gomez was injured, Matip was injured, Fabinho was injured, Thiago was injured, and he didn't have options in the middle of the park, he didn't have options in the centre-half position, and he pulled Fabinho and Henderson to the centre-half position. I think we all saw how bad this combination has been since the Southampton game late in 2020, in the start of the new year, and also the game against Burnley, the game against Brighton, the game against West Brom, the game against Newcastle. It was just a bad spell, and it's a bad spell in a strong way. Like it's when you get, and regardless of the situation with the pandemic, it's like when you get a strong flu, or like the strong cold, instead of getting just a simple 2 or 3 days flu. It is seriously a period where Liverpool need to think. To meditate maybe what they're happening in their season, try to calm down, try to read things a little bit better, because certainly the media and the press and the Liverpool fans as well are not going to be very, very forgiving if Liverpool doesn't manage to end in the top 4 this season. So I think at this point, Liverpool now need to look forward rather than looking back. Stop making the excuses for Klopp, really, because, Klopp, hasn't helped himself to be endearing in the last couple of months, isn't he? He used all sorts of tactics. He started the war of words with Guardiola, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and that doesn't help. That doesn't help the reputation. And against a media like the English media, you cannot really save yourself from that, because that is going to be your reputation for, not the rest of your career, but for probably a couple of years forward if he keeps complaining about other stuff. Now, Liverpool's bad form, again, the only legitimate reason that you could think of Liverpool's bad form and results is injuries. Like, this is the only thing that you could legit have as an excuse, because that starts a sort of chain of events where you lose players, you lose fitness in terms of that, of course. You have a lot of work to do, you have a lot of catch-up work to do. You're pulling players from the midfield, just like I mentioned with Fabinho and Henderson, disrupting the balance of the team, not having a stable lineup and having a stable starting 11. It all hurt Liverpool this season, and it hurt them really bad. And it looks like it will continue to hurt them for the rest of the season, and they could even lose more points, and they could even lose more ground. I mean, what is the guarantee that they won't lose any more, for example, after they lost to Burnley, to Brighton, and to Man City already in 2021 on Anfield? This is 3 losses on Anfield. You could extend that to the last time they won at Anfield, it was against Tottenham, and that was in early December. So, seriously, it is a very, very bad run from Liverpool at the moment. A very bad run from Klopp in particular, going in the media and trying to pull all sorts of excuses. It seriously is a bad time for Liverpool. A bad time for Liverpool fans, but just like they experienced the highest of highs, I think it's time to experience the lowest of lows, and, just a period, and it's gonna go through. Every team has that. Every team go through ups and downs. But certainly for Liverpool, and this season in particular, it has been doubled down by the amount of injuries they had. And, I'm not giving them a way out really here by saying that they had a lot of injuries, because a lot of teams had a lot of injuries and they still pulled out some great season. And they still won trophies and all of that. But for Liverpool, the fact that, it was like a 50-50 situation. It was 50% from the injuries and 50% from the management of Klopp, because the management of Klopp has to be discredited as much as it should be credited when he's doing positive and he's doing well and winning trophies and winning games and all. But when he's not doing okay, it should be discredited, and it should be mentioned that Jurgen Klopp managed his games quite badly at certain points, not starting with the right lineup sometimes, not starting with the right personnel sometimes, trying a little bit of a, overrun or overdrive with his pressing system sometimes. The fullbacks are not exactly the same quality that they were, and I don't know to what I can attribute this lack of quality from Alexander-Arnold and Robertson this season, because for most of the games I've been watching, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold just pour crosses into the box, and pour crosses, and as they put a lot of crosses, and pour crosses as in poor crosses, like lacking of quality. So it's seriously a big problem for Liverpool as well. They don't have those strong points anymore. They're not exactly intense, they're not exactly sharp in finishing, which is a big problem as well for them. Salah, Firmino and Mane, struggling to score, although Salah is the top scorer in the Premier League. He scored a couple against West Ham, he looked really good. We all said this is a Salah Liverpool need. This is how Liverpool should look for the rest of the season. And from out of nowhere, they lose to Brighton and they lose to City, and all of a sudden, it looks like a really, really bad spell once again for Liverpool. I'm going to end by saying really that this bad spell is not going to be lasting long. Like, Liverpool eventually will return to their own ways and to their brilliant self, because they're too good. They are really, really too good to be to be in a long empty period, a long, purple, sort of a, not purple, rough patch of form as of late. So I hope Liverpool get back to the right track, because the Premier League in the last couple of seasons has been what it is because of Liverpool's exciting prospect of rivaling Man City. And, I don't see Man United, Chelsea, Tottenham, I don't see him yet on the level of Liverpool and Man City. So it looks like City are probably close to becoming Premier League champions with the one game in hand and the gap that they have already on the rest of the table, or else it would be, a complete collapse for City, and Liverpool can find somehow their way on track. So it is linked with two things really: Liverpool getting back to the right form, and Man City dipping in form. And I think the latter is almost impossible to happen at the moment, with Guardiola really wrapping his head around the right tactics, the right personnel, the right way of play, the right style, and with serious defensive resilience at the moment for Man City. Like Liverpool scored from a penalty. That's how, and a very contentious penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty really. Salah just dove against Diaz in that game. So with Man City's form being that incredible, Liverpool need to up the tempo. They need to find their own form. They need to finish the season in the top 4 positions, because it's going to be it's going to be a difference between just losing the title and not being in the title race, and not being in the top 4 because of these standards. And that is going to be a huge drop from standards that they set for the last couple of seasons if they don't finish in the top 4. That's it from me. I was your boy, the HOD, the BSP. Like, share, comment on this video, of course, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications to receive all the updates from this podcast episodes and other match recaps and content on the channel. You can follow us on social media. I'm at BSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram. Listen to this on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform. And until the next time, you'll see me soon. Goodbye.